Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us on the call. Tonight we got Roger Drummer online with us talking about fatty liver disease. If you don't know Roger Drummer, he is co-owner of HerbWorks.com. It is a company that him and I started back in 2009 dealing with stress and brain function products. If you're not familiar with the products, you can go to HerbWorks.com. But tonight Roger is going to be talking about fatty liver disease. And Roger is an incredible educator. I've learned about fatty liver disease over the past several years because I've heard him speak about it many times, and I didn't realize how many issues that it actually causes, such as pre-diabetes. Hang on, I'm reading it right now here, Roger. I know we talked about this many times. Weight loss. We talk about the extra spare tire around your gut has a lot to do with heart attacks, and it's something that can actually be cured very easily, and Roger's going to talk about that tonight. So, Roger, I'm going to turn this over to you and tell everyone what you've been teaching me the last couple of years, because it's pretty awesome information.
All right, thank you. And you might be wondering why we want to talk about fatty liver disease. It's not the most exciting thing in the world, but if you notice in the title, it also says diabetes and heart attack. And it's rare when you find someone with diabetes that doesn't have fatty liver disease. And it's one of the factors that plays into a lot of heart attacks. And why is that? It's because the liver is such an important organ in the functioning of literally every process in your body that it will have an influence or an effect on just about every other disease syndrome or just be a part of it. Anytime you can make your liver healthier, you will have an impact on every single chronic disease that you could possibly end up with as you age. It's fascinating, but even when you're talking about things like cholesterol, your liver plays a huge role in that, and I'll get into it a little later, but having a damaged liver or a liver that's just sluggish or not functioning right plays a role even in how you react to people every day emotionally. And so we're going to be covering all that tonight, but I just want to make a little talk about first just about fatty liver. What is fatty liver? Right now they're calling it non-alcohol fatty liver disease. And why is that? Because it has a lot of the same characteristics as cirrhosis of the liver from alcoholism. So the liver starts to accumulate fat and then loses its function of processing and movement of energy, and so your whole body starts to suffer. When it's related to alcoholism, it's obviously, it can be much worse in its effects right away, whereas non-alcoholic fatty liver disease tends to sneak up on you because just like it says, non-alcoholic, it just happens to regular people who are not eating very well. And it's not something that they consciously decided to do. It's just that you fall into a pattern. Like most chronic issues, they sneak up on you. You fall into a pattern of eating not as well as you used to, not exercising too much, and maybe drinking sugary beverages, things like that. And all of a sudden you develop these beginnings of losing your metabolism. And really that's the kickoff point where you're falling into that phase to where you have metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome is really just a term that describes the fact that you're just about ready to get one of 4 or 5 different chronic diseases. And it's because you've lost the ability to metabolize your food, and oftentimes that means you're eating too much. And your body is going into this disease state, and you might be getting high blood pressure, you might be getting diabetes, you might be getting a little bit on the obese side. You're probably starting heart disease, and without knowing it, you're probably doing something to your memory also, because all these things are interrelated. And that's why this is such a great topic, because if you can deal with this and really make an effort to do it, and the other thing that Zach was saying at the beginning, that that it's easy to actually deal with. Well, it is and it isn't. It's easy if you're a type of person who likes to make a decision and move forward and will really do it. Then there's steps you can take to actually work on it. and move forward and start the process. But if you're not, then it's a really hard thing to deal with because you're relying on drugs, which they really don't have any for it, and you're relying on someone in medicine to take care of it for you, and that's not going to happen. This is something you're going to have to deal with on your own and have a health practitioner help you with. But all the things that you can do to start the process are within your own reach, and that's kind of what we're going to be talking about tonight. You know, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is something that affects over 90 million people. So when you think about the fact we're living in a country of 330 million, that's a lot. And, you know, it almost kind of dovetails with the numbers you see of type 2 diabetics, dovetails with the numbers of what they consider to be pre-diabetic. You're kind of getting the picture. Anybody in that state of health is really developing this, but your doctor probably hasn't thought about testing you for it because, you know, they're not, usually when you go see a general practitioner, they're not going to dig deeply into what you have going on. When they see your blood sugars off, they're probably just going to give you a pill to help you regulate your blood sugar and send you on your way and tell you to eat better. But the reality is you're falling into that pattern now to where you could end up with one of the 5 or 6 major chronic diseases, or you could just end up with all of them because a lot of people do that. You know, they don't come one at a time. Generally, when your body has that big of an imbalance, you'll catch 2 or 3 things because they're all signs that the body has lost its ability to go into homeostasis and regulate itself. So now your entire system is trying to make up for the imbalances you have, which further causes deeper imbalances. So it's like we learned in Chinese medicine that the longer you have an imbalance, the body starts putting on layers and layers and layers of issues. And, you know, the beautiful thing about Chinese medicine is that they teach you to look at the root of what's going on and not just deal with the issues, because you can be dealing with issues and issues all day long and never really get down to the core issue, which is just insulin resistance in this case. Too much sugar, terrible diet, and you're losing your liver's ability to actually function. So this is also affecting almost 17% of all the children in our country. There's been cases already of children as young as 12 having liver transplants, according to this. And this has been called one of the next great epidemics in America. Why is that? Because it dovetails, again, with diabetes, and one of the great big medical procedures that goes along with diabetes is kidney transplant and dialysis. There's dialysis centers opening all over America, and believe me, they're not going to be worrying about having slow business because of the fact that the whole country is moving toward this, what we call epidemic. It's really not truly an epidemic because an epidemic has to do with an infectious disease that spreads quickly around, but it has the telltale signs of being one because it affects so many people. And yet it's, again, just like diabetes, type 2 diabetes, and you know, this disease of not regulating your blood sugar, really it's all about lifestyle, and it's something you yourself can do something about. So when you look at the fact that what is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, well, the most simple way to tell you this is that it's really just the cells of your liver becoming filled with fat and not being able to function at all in any of the processes that go on with the liver. The easiest way to picture this, now you might have to be a foodie to picture this, but anybody that knows what foie gras is, which is a type of liver which was made famous in France as a delicacy served with most of the meals in gourmet restaurants. It's a type of liver from a duck that's really fatty. In fact, any great chef in America that's not working at a vegan or a vegetarian restaurant will tell you that if you just have some foie gras and add it to some dish in that restaurant, it is always the closest thing to perfection you can get because that fat has such an incredible taste. Well, that dish and that liver comes about by force feeding a duck cornstarch and sugar, which is basically kind of what you get when you're looking at non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. You're looking at people eating way too much sugar and way too many simple starches and white flours that literally can't be processed by the body or made into energy, and it just turns your liver to fat. And I don't know if you've followed this before in the news or maybe have seen this, but it's been around for about 10 years, but you'll have all these instances where someone will go in for a major surgery, and when they open them up, they'll notice that their internal organs are just coated with fat. It's something called visceral fat. It's where fat accumulates around your internal organs, your liver. Often happens with your liver first as part of this process, because your liver is probably the first organ that becomes insulin resistant because of its, it's so tied into the whole process of regulating blood sugar. And so they've opened people up during surgery, noticed this fat, actually removed it, okay? And the person wakes up and no longer has diabetes, no longer has insulin resistance. All these things have gone away because they removed the fat, and their organs were able to go back to near normal function. So it gives you kind of an idea of how this impacts your life. And, not everybody can just drop down to the hospital and get the fat removed from their organs. It's not a normal, common process. Although I'm kind of surprised with the love of surgery in this country, why it hasn't become a normal process. But the reality now, to even find out you have fatty liver, you have to usually get an ultrasound. They can do some blood tests and kind of know, but an ultrasound confirms it. But for yourself, if you're just carrying around an extra 15 to 20 pounds and it seems to be on a roll around your stomach, or you're pre-diabetic, or you have insulin resistance, or maybe you're a little on the obese side, believe me, you have fatty liver disease. And so you have the beginnings of it. You don't want to wait for your doctor to tell you about it. You want to get involved in the process of taking care of it. So, but that's what it is. It's a liver that's lost its ability to process sugar, and then it starts to become damaged by all the other things that the liver is famous for dealing with. And that's too much cooked fat, too much inflammatory oils, chemicals, intoxicants, your denatured food. All these things become a huge issue when your liver's lost its ability to process anything. So then it becomes overwhelmed. So I want to talk a little bit about liver and how it's involved in almost every aspect of your health, and then we'll get into a little bit about how to actually take care of it, how this builds up in your system, things to avoid. So you have to realize your liver is the largest organ in the body, and it's paired with the gallbladder. In fact, in Chinese medicine, you never talk that much about liver without mentioning gallbladder. They're kind of a paired organ system, and it's one of the two hardest organs in your whole body. It has hundreds of functions. Along with your heart, it has the most complex number of functions in the body. And in Chinese medicine, what I love about this is that when they talk about liver, they're talking about not only your physical organ, but they're talking about your nervous system and your processing of emotions. And this is another way to figure out whether your liver is balanced or not, or if you're having troubles with your nervous system, just giving you an idea that something's imbalanced. Because in Chinese medicine, that if you're experiencing things like impatience, anger, frustration, resentment, you're overly violent, belligerent, rude, you have a tendency toward being arrogant and aggressive, and you have mood swings, that's all symptoms of a nervous system and a liver that it's extremely out of balance for a long period of time, and you haven't been able to transform those emotions into something else. And if you don't, that often just leads you to becoming depressed. And so in Chinese medicine, when anybody comes in and mentions any of those things, or they even say they're depressed, or they're talking about all these mood swings, or even PMS. A lot of people don't realize this in Chinese medicine. When you come in and you have any symptoms of PMS, whether it's swollen breast, bloating, pain, cramps. All this is related to liver function. And so you'll get a tonic, a type of formula that's just designed to move your liver. And so the liver's in charge not only of moving your energy through your whole body, but when we're talking about reproductive system, when we're talking about women, a lot of even the fertility issues are related to the fact that the liver's not moving properly. It's not nourished enough by good quality blood. It's not moving energy through the uterus properly. And so that affects your fertility. So it's quite common, and this is something I used to do, regularly when I was an herbalist in LA. One of my specialties was just dealing with infertility. And a lot of it was just related to the fact that the liver was imbalanced. You had extreme cases of PMS, and you had to figure out exactly what the imbalance was, and then you just built blood and build up the reproductive system. And it works on a large percentage of times with most people. But it's all about, again, it's about bringing a balance back into it. And how is that related then to things like fatty liver disease? Well, a lot of things that disrupt your flow of your liver come from your diets. Not only your emotions, it's kind of this flowing back and forth performance between how you're feeling, your emotional life, and the foods you eat feeds into that. And once you get an idea on how someone's reacting to things in life, you can fine-tune their diet pretty much to assist them along with the herbal program or something to help them to get over those issues. So for example, if in case there's some women on this call, if you're someone who experiences PMS and you have cramping, you should eat a very light diet leading up to that period of the month, and it should be food that's easy to digest, and your meals should be light because your liver is already overburdened from your normal diet. You're already having cramping, meaning the liver is working too hard to move things flowing through your uterus, and you don't want to load it up with fat and cheese and a lot of animal protein and eggs and heavy, rich food like, it's almost like eating cheesecake, these heavy foods. So your liver now becomes just burdened by all that diet, and it can't do its normal process because it's already burdened with your shift of hormones at that time and processing that, because that's something your liver does too. It processes hormones and it filters out the fake hormones or the synthetic hormones that's in your food. In case you're not familiar with what causes that, most pesticides are estrogenic. They mimic estrogen. So your liver has to have the job of processing all that and moving it out of your system. So the more you overburden your liver emotionally and with rich diet, the less it's going to be able to perform all its different functions of detoxing and filtering your blood and all these different issues. So it's kind of like setting yourself up on a lifestyle to nourish your liver and do little things to help it along in all its different tasks. But this is why when you're sitting down talking to someone about their health and they mention, well, they have irritable bowel, or their food seems to sit in their stomach for hours and just doesn't move, and they have shoulder and neck tension, or they always seem to feel like they have a lump in their throat and they can't swallow their food. Really, it's all just liver stagnation issues. It's things to do with the fact that energetically your liver's not moving, so you have to give it a break and you have to do things to move it along. And all these syndromes, when you combine them with a diet rich in sugar and starch, too many, quick carbohydrates, that just creates a syndrome to where your liver is completely overburdened, and then it can move into this process of becoming non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So your liver filters everything you eat, everything you come in contact with. It helps regulate your blood sugar, cleans your blood, detoxes poisons. And this is one of the things that is very important to know about your liver. Your liver has a two-phase job that it does. Whenever you eat any carcinogens or come in contact with any toxins that are in your diet, your liver has the job of producing enzymes that basically attach to all the carcinogens. Your digestive process performs this really nifty job, so to speak, of separating your food out and then exposing these toxins. This is part of phase 1 liver detox. It exposes all these toxins for phase 2 to come along and then excrete the enzyme that binds with that, and then it moves it out of your system so it doesn't bother you. Well, the problem with that system, and right now probably in our country, at least 50% of the people probably don't have enough enzymes in that system to make it work properly. So your carcinogens get exposed, and then there's nothing to take it out of your system. So it actually, because the first phase works so well, it's actually putting you in danger, because the second phase is relying on other things, and it often doesn't have the supply there to do its job. And where does that supply come from? It comes from your diet. It comes from trace minerals and high levels of nutrition. So if you don't have that in your diet, your liver becomes compromised, and then it doesn't have the fuel to actually make the enzymes it needs to protect you from the carcinogens you had in your diet. So if you're eating a diet that's not very good for you in the first place, that contains a lot of these types of, food chemicals they add to food, the chemicals could be coming from anywhere. If you have a lot of that in your diet, the diet itself burdens your liver, but it also burdens your entire body because it doesn't supply it with what it needs to make the enzymes to protect you from the stuff that was in your diet. So it's that catch-22 situation again. So your liver is very important. It's like your first step protection against all these things. So again, it's very important that you not only eat well and eat foods that help your liver move and process energy, but also to supplement with certain things that make it easier for your liver to work properly. In the case of a multivitamin, something that has a really great broad range of trace minerals so your liver can produce these enzymes with which to detox your system. Also, Chinese herbs has an incredible amount of herbs that are very good for detoxing and for cleansing your liver, and at the same time, they do other functions in the body. This is one of the reasons why I love adaptogens so much, because adaptogens not only regulate your nervous system, which has an effect on your liver, but they also have very strong and potent antioxidants in themselves that clean your liver and help it to function properly. In fact, reishi mushroom is one of the most important herbs that you could ever take for cleaning your liver. So is rhodiola. Nobody thinks about it that way, but rhodiola is a very potent antioxidant, especially for liver function. There's all kinds of research in Russia on rhodiola and how it complements even chemotherapy and protecting your cells from toxins. And then you have schizandra, which is, I use schizandra in two of my formulas, but the main one, Tianqi, it's probably the largest amount of any herb is schizandra in that formula. And that herb is the Chinese equivalent to milk thistle. We all know milk thistle is a famous, herb in Eastern herbalism for just cleansing the liver and as a potent antioxidant. Well, that's the Chinese equivalent of that is schizandra. And schizandra has even been written up on the government's own PubMed website as an herb that detoxes the body from acetaminophen, which is a painkiller we all know is Tylenol, but it's also a very potent liver toxic chemical. And so they've shown in studies that taking schizandra will actually offset that and negate the negative effects from it. So there's all these different ways that you can take things to protect your liver. And the funny thing, the really great thing actually about your liver is that you can lose 25 to sometimes 50% of it, depending on your state of health, and it will regenerate. The liver will regenerate itself and grow back to normal, given the chance and the environment to actually do that. So, but it's working all the time. Your liver doesn't take any time off. It's filtering things 24 hours a day, and there's certain things you can do through your own lifestyle and diet to give it a break. And one of the most important things is I learned through Chinese medicine is that, all your organ systems are basically set up on a body clock. And very fascinating to me, and I thought it was crazy when I first heard about it, but over time, being an apprentice in an herb shop and just seeing examples of how all this works, it's now went from being just something odd that I heard about to just something that's so profound to me that you can track things like this. But your liver gallbladder energy starts to come on around 10 p.m. And then it goes through the phase of gallbladder from about 10 to 1, and then, maybe 12:30, and then from that time it goes to 3:30. It's in liver phase. So anything that you can do to ease the work of that system, which is really what we're talking about, is not eating late at night. Never eat a huge full meal after 7 o'clock. In fact, it's better not even to eat a huge meal at that time. Have a lighter dinner, and what happens is your body will have a chance to process that, so your liver isn't trying to process an entire meal at 1 o'clock in the morning, and then that allows it to do its other functions of cleaning your blood and cleansing itself and distributing all your energy from all the other food and different things that you did during the day. It's almost like giving it a few hours of a break. And if you don't, one of the beauties of that system is to try and figure out, again, if you have a liver imbalance energetically, is if you start waking up at 10 o'clock at night, you have a liver and gallbladder imbalance. That means the energy is excessive in that system, and it starts to wake you up. A lot of people I know will fall asleep really well at 9:30, but at 10:30, they're awake, and they're awake till 1 or 2 in the morning. And it's all because of an imbalance in that system. If you wake up grinding your teeth at 1:30 in the morning, it's liver energy that needs to be balanced. It's not a TMG syndrome. You don't have to go to your dentist. Basically you have a syndrome of too much excessive energy in your liver that's not moving. Also, a lot of people will wake up in the middle of the night with heart palpitations and think they got to go to the doctor because they're having a heart attack. And it's, again, what is it? It's excessive liver energy. And at 3:30 in the morning, it just moves and goes on to its next energy system. And oftentimes, moving your liver is what actually takes care of it. So don't eat late at night. And remember, your liver is attached to your nervous system. All your emotions affect your liver. In fact, your liver is the first thing that's affected by emotions. So if your liver is overloaded emotionally and with the food that you're eating, you can have just itchy skin all the time, hives, rashes. Hives are almost always some food that you ate that you're allergic to that has a reaction in your liver that just spreads out over your whole system and expresses itself as heat and itchy skin. Headaches, mood swings, fatigue, bloating, shoulder and neck tension, eye twitching, restless leg syndrome. All these things are related to an imbalanced liver. And that state of imbalance, along with the sugary diet, creates, because energetically it's already not functioning at its highest level, and then when you're hitting it with the diet that it can't process, then that's when the chronic, it starts to build up these conditions in your entire body where your health becomes chronic. Like I said earlier, even affects your cholesterol level, because the liver is what produces 80% of your cholesterol. It doesn't come from your diet. It's mostly produced by your liver. It's what sends the type of cholesterol out into your system to repair your cellular injuries. And the health of your liver and the types of fat and food that you're eating will influence the type of cholesterol you're making due to how well your liver's working. When you have fatty liver syndrome and you're eating a diet high in sugar and cooked fats and polyunsaturated hydrogenated oils, what they call trans fats now, your body will produce more, your liver will produce more small LDL particles, which are the foamy type that stick to your arteries and then start to injure the endothelial lining of your arteries. And that's really what you don't want. LDL by itself is nothing bad. It's taking cholesterol out into your body to fix things. And then you have something called HDL, which is another type of cholesterol that brings it back, the stuff you don't need, back to your liver to be processed. But even that process is messed up when you have fatty liver, because it can no longer process that cholesterol and transform it. So a lot of it can end up staying in your bloodstream and becoming something else. And so you can see how this is thoroughly tied into heart disease and how you're processing fats. In fact, if you're having things like triglycerides, high triglycerides, that goes back. That's your first sign, really, that you have a liver that's not processing sugars, and maybe you're eating too much fructose and too much fruit, and your liver's impaired already, and so it's not able to process all those different sugars, and it's turning it into a type of fat, which is what it does when it stores it in a cell anyway. Your body doesn't just store pure sugar, it transforms it into a fat, but it has nowhere to go. And so your liver's not processing, you're making too much of it, you end up with just these fats that are floating around in your system continuously, and there's no way for you to actually remove it. And so your liver has this, becomes imbalanced. It's no longer able to deal with the fats and the sugars in your diet, and something called lipogenesis kicks in, which is fat production in your liver. And usually the thing that triggers that the most is too much fructose. You know, fructose is the chief cause of that, and really they're considering fructose now, excessive amounts of fructose, to be the chief cause for a lot of liver transplants. It's getting up there with alcohol, and oftentimes when people that drink a lot of alcohol and have troubles with that also consume a lot of the other types of things that have a lot of fructose in it, which is the simple sweet drinks that you buy and the foods that are just loaded with fructose because it's one of the cheapest substances in the world. Anytime you see high fructose corn syrup, you should just avoid it like the plague. There's really nothing going on for your body that's beneficial to use that. And it's hard for your liver to process, and it processes it differently from other sugar, although all sugar will overload your liver. But fructose seems to be worse in the ability to trigger fat production in your liver. This is one of the reasons why, if you're a long-time Tianchi purchaser, why a few months back, I don't remember when exactly, could have been 6 months to a year now, that we took the fructose out of our Tianchi. Even though we only had 24 calories of it, which is practically nothing in our drink, we thought that if there was a way to actually get it out, that we would go through that process. And it took a long time figuring it out, but we were able to replace it with something called D-ribose, which is beneficial for every cell in your body because it assists it in making ATP, which is the energy molecule that runs 98% of all the energy processes in your body. It all has to do with making ATP in the mitochondria of all your cells. Your heart cells probably have 4,000 to 5,000 mitochondria. Your liver cells the same, your brain cells. And all these mitochondria is where it's part of the Krebs cycle of making ATP and energy, requires D-ribose. And so we were able to use that ingredient to replace our fructose, and now we have not only just a better drink, but something that's good on all different levels for your liver, your heart, and your brain, because it just assists the body in making ATP without having any sugars in it to imbalance your liver or interfere with any of the health regimens you might be going on. And so we went through that process ourselves. We were really happy about it, and we have the best tasting drink we've ever had in years. But that was what triggered that process, was that a lot of people who had imbalances like diabetes or prediabetes or were athletes were concerned, even though it was a very small amount. So we listened to them and we changed it. And, you know, it was great for us because we already had a drink that's incredible for your liver. We have, you know, it's based on schizandra and reishi mushroom and rhodiola and different herbs that are just very, very healthy for your liver as far as cleaning it, as far as an antioxidant product for your liver. Like I said earlier, schizandra is one of the most amazing herbs for detoxing your liver, and yet it's an adaptogen that has an incredible effect of clearing your mind, and it helps your kidney adrenal hold on to energy, and it's the main chi tonic, one of the main 3 or 4 chi tonics in all of Chinese medicine for building up your lungs' ability to make energy and your digestive chi. And so it has so many important aspects of function for every level of your health, and it's one of the cornerstone herbs in our formula. One of the things that gives it its flavor too, because it's a very dark red or purple berry from China that has all different 5 flavors in it. So it has, it's tart, it's sour, it's sweet, and it mixes well with raspberries, which we mix it with. And so it creates this incredible flavor, besides the fact it's one of the most important herbs you could ever take. And so, but that was the impetus behind us getting rid of the sugar in our product, was because of this very same syndrome. Because, realizing that the people that really wanted to work on that issue, and we have a lot of people with diabetes that take our drink. I don't know why that is, but a lot of people gravitate toward it. We have a lot of athletes on it. And so we just listened and we changed our formula for the better. So that kind of leads you into how you're going to change your diet to make it most beneficial in your program so that you don't have this problem coming up. And maybe you already have this problem. I've talked to 3 or 4 people in the last 6 months that have had this issue. And, it's interesting. You can work on it yourself, but again, a lot of people won't put the effort into it. So when you look at what's really triggering it, the first thing you have to do is turn off all this insulin response in your system. So what does that mean? You want to limit the sugars in your diet. And if you have this issue already, you want to eliminate it. You don't just want to limit it, you want to eliminate it. And I'm talking about even the sugar in fruit. You probably don't want to eat any fruit for a few months just to get yourself to the point to where your liver kicks in that process of clearing out the stored fat on it. And you can only do that if you're not eating a lot of things that produce fat. Now, this doesn't mean you quit eating fat, because fats aren't your problem with your liver function. It's the sugars and the white flour and all the foods, really the processed foods that you buy in packages that are snacks, the processed drinks, the cans of things that are extremely sweet. All these things. I don't think fatty liver syndrome was a problem 30 or 40 years ago when we didn't have access to high fructose corn syrup. And the problem with that is that it was so cheap, they added it to everything. And so now people that didn't eat a very wholesome diet anyway were getting it from 6 or 7 sources during the day and overloading on it. And all of a sudden there were people that were eating 100, 200 grams of fructose a day, whereas before they had very little of it in their system. They were maybe eating some other drinks that had regular sugar, but because they cost a lot more, they weren't excessively consuming it. And so that's one of the first things you want to look at. What is the sugars in your diet? Just eliminate high fructose corn syrup. Look at your labels for everything. Look at your salad dressings. All these things contain it. And again, how rigid you have to be depends on what your state of health is, where you're actually at with this. And then, eliminate white flour, even grains. If you're having a problem with insulin resistance, you shouldn't even be eating grains, because your body's lost its ability to process it. That doesn't mean you won't be able to do it. Look at this as your kind of a fasting training thing that you're going through, to where you're just going to become a new human being and be much healthier, and you're going to get rid of a medical condition that nobody really has a cure for. But again, you can do it all through your diet and through doing certain herbs and things. So you want to do that. You want to eat a diet that has a lot of vegetables in it, lean protein. Oils do not mess up your liver function. In fact, eating great olive oil, coconut oil, grass-fed butter. If you have access to Kerrygold butter, that's grass-fed butter. That's butter from cows that only eat grass. They're not fed grain. And believe me, once you taste it, this is the problem with Kerrygold butter. Once you taste it, you won't be buying any more other butter, because it tastes like the most incredible butter you'll ever eat, right? And fish oil, omega-3s are great for your liver. Coconut oil, by the way, because it has MCTs, are great for this type of condition already, because your liver's not processing things well. And so MCTs, which are the fat that makes up a large proportion of coconut oil, gives your body something to burn for fuel and energy right away without having to be processed. So it's a great oil for you. And, you know, there's saturated fat in coconut oil. There's saturated fat in grass-fed beef. You know, and there's great fats in salmon. Saturated fat from a natural source that's not highly processed and cooked is not bad for your liver. You know, so the saturated fat in coconut oil is not going to have a negative effect on your system. Then you want to exercise because, again, you cannot start the process of boosting your metabolism and starting to burn these fats that you've stored around your liver without doing some exercise and moving your body. You remember earlier I talked about rhodiola. Rhodiola is an incredible adaptogen for regulating your glandular system and its response to stress. That's, in my opinion, is the greatest thing about rhodiola, right? It's one of the most incredible herbs that, because the energy when you take it concentrates in your pituitary and the energy center in your forehead, which is what they refer to now in a lot of books on brain activity, the frontal lobe of your brain. The frontal lobe is in charge of coherence for your entire brain, and it's in charge of the communication for your entire brain. So if your energy resides up in the frontal lobe more often, what that means is that your entire brain is communicating and sending the best signals it can to your entire body, right? That's why it's so important. And this is one of the beauties of adaptogenic herbs in particular, because most people spend most of their time down in the stress response, which is about survival. And when that happens, your brain's not communicating at all. It's basically locked into telling you you're in danger. And in that danger mode, you're just living off adrenaline and cortisol, and you're at heightened awareness of different things and burning energy excessively and not having the ability to focus, be creative, to tap into your imagination, and just be a joyful, happy person. That's what happens when you're continuously locked into survival, and it wears you out, and it causes excessive inflammation. Also in that state, since we're talking about liver, that means your liver is just tense and it's not moving energy. This is what leads long-term to your digestive issues we talked about, irritable bowel, feeling like everything's stuck in your throat, not being able to move energy through your system, you know, having reflux. Acid reflux is a common liver syndrome of, and syndrome of liver imbalance from too much stress. So back to rhodiola, though. So rhodiola concentrates your brain up in the frontal lobe, but the other great thing about it is that it's such a potent antioxidant for your liver. It detoxes your liver and it calms your nervous system. Anytime you affect the pituitary with a great adaptogen, and this happens with rhodiola, reishi mushroom, a little bit with schizandra, ashwagandha is great at this. All those herbs are potent antioxidants that cleanse your liver, but they also immediately, when you take them, calm your nervous system. And as soon as your nervous system relaxes, your liver relaxes, it starts to flow and energy starts to move. So you can't look at like rhodiola and think, well, it just does this. No, there's a lot of functions all over your body. But the other great thing I haven't even got to yet about rhodiola is that when you take it, within an hour of exercising, you'll actually burn 40% more fatty acids than you normally would without it. So it has this, and that must be, in my opinion, its ability to move energy in your liver, because you have all this stored fat, you have, fatty acids that need to be released, and you burn another 40% more when you're working out. So it's a great thing to take before you work out. So again, it's also a great example of how, herbs like rhodiola and Tianchi are great for athletes. And I think this is why they probably take this, because it not only has the D-ribose, which builds ATP in your system, right? And a hard workout, a lot of the times, the soreness and the soreness in your muscles you experience is just the extreme amount of ATP you've just burned up, and the normal diet doesn't replenish that too well. And then you have the herbs that assist in burning more fatty acids. You're moving your energy and you're moving your liver and you're waking up your brain. So all these things come into play. So you want to exercise, and that doesn't mean you have to go, run 5 miles. You don't have to, go to the gym and pump weights for an hour and a half. Just kind of move your body for a half hour. The first thing you can do is get out and walk for a half hour. Go out and walk for a half hour. If you can start to lift light weights, that's a great thing too. But try to do something every day, because along with your diet changes, you're going to be, you have to move your body so that it expends energy so your cells start to change. And this is part of the process of getting the fat out of your system and then out of your liver. You got to start to transform your entire body. So you want to pay attention to herbs, not only just the herbs in TNT, but alpha-lipoic acid is a great herb for your liver. So is N-acetylcysteine. These are two substances in the vitamin products, type products, or amino acid derivatives that have an incredible ability to build glutathione. Glutathione is the master antioxidant in every cell in your body, and it deals with inflammation. If you have a fatty liver, you're dealing with excessive inflammation already. So a little bit of this is really good for you. I mentioned Schizandra already. Taking B vitamins, a multi-mineral product, multivitamin, because your liver needs help building the chemicals and the processes, the enzymes it needs to detox. And if it doesn't do that, then it makes it easier for your liver to become burdened and then go through the process of accumulating too many toxins. This is one of the worst things about fatty liver disease, the fact that it's not processing anything properly. So all the toxins you come in contact with are going to be worse, and they're going to be stored. They're not going to be processed the way your body naturally would process that. So you want to look at your food too. Great detox food is broccoli, cauliflower, kale, collard greens, cabbage, all those things in that family, arugula lettuce, garlic and onions. You want to go, believe me, this is something you want to do too. If you're really fascinated by this call and you want to do the best thing you can do for your liver, listen to this call a few times so you really get the information, but also go back and look at my call on sugar cravings. Look at my call on diabetes. All these calls basically could be influencing the same process you want to go through with this. If you can get a handle on your sugar cravings, your liver's going to love it. Your liver's going to get healthier right away, because you're going to be eating the foods that you needed to deal with your insulin resistance. But that same diet and that same process, when you're looking at all the foods I mentioned here, is going to help your liver to start to lose fat and to start to process things and improve your entire health. And at that same time, avoid toxins. Try to eat as much organic things as you can. Drink clean water. Your liver's already under stress. Try to be clear emotionally. Have fun. Go out and do something every day that's fun. Have conversations. Hang out with people you like. Get involved with things. It all helps your liver to process and move. And stay away from toxic situations, toxic TV shows, things that stress you out. And get on a program that's just pro-life. You want to build your life. You want to be excited. You want to move your energy and get out and do things and eat the diet that goes along with that. And in that process, you'll clean up your liver and you'll heal your entire system.